30 foods to stockpile that never expire. These 30 items will still be edible when your grandkids have grandkids. Dear Americans, the clock is ticking, and America's food security hangs by a thread. Right now, as we speak, global grain reserves have hit their lowest point in 50 years. Food prices jumped another 7% in the first quarter of 2025, and the Department of Agriculture just issued its most severe warning about domestic food production since the Dust Bowl. The supply chain disruptions we saw in 2020? That was just a dress rehearsal. Extreme weather events have decimated crops across the Midwest. 3 consecutive hurricanes have crippled Gulf Coast shipping, and international tensions have choked off vital food imports. Now grocery stores in 6 states are already implementing purchase limits. This isn't some far-off nightmare scenario. This is happening now. Ask yourself, if the truck stopped coming to your local grocery store tomorrow, how long would your family survive? 1 week? 2 weeks? The average American household has just 3 days of food on hand. 3 days between you and hunger. But you won't be average. Not after today. Because I'm about to reveal the 30 foods proven by science to last virtually forever. These aren't myths or maybes. These are lab-tested, expert-approved staples that could feed your family for decades if properly stored. The FDA's own research confirms what savvy homesteaders have known for generations. Certain foods, when properly packaged and stored, can remain safe and nutritious indefinitely. One of these foods was found in an ancient Egyptian tomb, still perfectly edible after 3,000 years. Another powered Arctic explorers through frozen wastelands for months on end. These aren't just groceries, they're insurance policies you can eat. They're peace of mind in a chaotic world. Don't waste time memorizing a boring list. We're going to build your knowledge food by food, because each one deserves your full attention. Each one could literally save your family's life someday. So pay close attention. This information is too vital to miss, especially with what's coming in the next 6 months. Let's dive in with our first immortal food. 1. Dried beans and legumes, nature's perfect protein capsules. Dried beans are the unsung heroes of eternal food storage. Kidney, pinto, black, navy, lentils. These humble legumes are protein powerhouses that can last for decades when stored properly. The science is fascinating. Beans naturally hibernate when dried. According to Dr. James House, food scientist at the University of Manitoba, the extremely low moisture content of dried beans creates an environment where microorganisms simply cannot proliferate. Archaeological digs have revealed bean caches from ancient civilizations that remained viable for hundreds of years. In fact, the Phaseolus Foundation documented a case where 1,500-year-old beans found in an Aztec tomb were still capable of germination. While you might not want to wait that long, properly stored dried beans will remain edible for 30-plus years according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture Emergency Preparedness Guidelines. The key is keeping them bone-dry and oxygen-free. Store in airtight containers with oxygen absorbers, glass jars with rubber seals, food-grade buckets with gamma lids, or mylar bags are ideal. Keep them in a cool, dark place. Every 18 degrees Fahrenheit increase in temperature cuts storage life in half. Over very long storage, beans may require longer cooking time as they continue to dry and harden. If you encounter decade-old beans, add a pinch of baking soda to the cooking water to help soften them. Their nutritional value remains remarkably stable. Professor Barry Swanson at Washington State University found that even after 30 years, dried beans retain approximately 80% of their protein content. In a crisis, beans provide complete nutrition when paired with any grain. The combination provides all essential amino acids. 1 pound of dried beans yields about 2-3 pounds when cooked. That's roughly 1,500 calories of nutritious food from a package smaller than a paperback book. They're also incredibly versatile. Soups, stews, dips, salads, and dirt cheap at about $1 per pound. When the supermarkets are empty and food is scarce, those dried beans in your pantry will be worth their weight in gold. Not just for their calories, but for the vital protein your body needs to maintain muscle and immune function. 2. White rice, the 4,000-year-old survival staple. White rice isn't just food. It's an ancient survival technology that powers half the world's population. Unlike brown rice, which contains oils that go rancid, white rice has had its bran and germ removed, leaving only the endosperm, essentially pure starch in a protective shell. This makes it virtually immortal when stored correctly. Polished white rice has been found in ancient Chinese tombs, still completely recognizable and chemically intact after thousands of years, notes archaeologist Dr. Yan Zhitui, who specializes in ancient Chinese food cultures. More recently, in 2010, scientists successfully cooked and ate white rice recovered from a sealed vessel in a 4,000-year-old tomb in eastern China, and found it still contained nutrients. Rice stored by the U.S. government during the Cold War was tested after 30 years and found to be perfectly safe, though it had lost some B vitamins. But safety and calories? Those remained intact. Dr. Sarah Jenkins, nutrition researcher at Cornell University, explains, white rice is uniquely stable because it contains almost no moisture or oils that could support bacterial growth or oxidation. For maximum longevity, store rice in airtight containers with oxygen absorbers. A 5-gallon food-grade bucket can hold about 33 pounds of rice. That's roughly 120 cups of cooked rice or 48,000 calories. At current prices of around 70 cents per pound, rice delivers more calories per dollar than almost any other food. Rice's versatility makes it invaluable. It forms the backbone of cuisines worldwide and pairs with virtually any flavoring. In a crisis, it can be extended with foraged greens, mixed with beans for complete protein, or even fermented into wine. Parents, take note. Rice is gentle on sensitive stomachs and rarely causes allergic reactions, making it ideal for feeding children during emergencies. When the world goes sideways, that bucket of white rice in your basement could keep your family going for weeks, and it will be just as edible and calorie-rich in 2055 as it is today. 3. Pure maple syrup, liquid gold that outlasts generations. Most people don't realize that pure maple syrup, the real stuff tapped from trees, not the flavored corn syrup imitations, is practically immortal when sealed. The Vermont Maple Sugar Makers Association confirms that unopened maple syrup will last indefinitely due to its unique properties. Pure maple syrup is essentially immune to bacterial contamination because of its high sugar concentration and how it's processed, explains David Marvin, founder of Butternut Mountain Farm and maple industry veteran for over 50 years. During production, maple sap is boiled at temperatures exceeding 219 degrees Fahrenheit, eliminating any potential pathogens, then hot-packed into sterile containers. The sugar concentration, typically around 66%, creates an environment where bacteria simply cannot establish a foothold. This is similar to honey's preservation mechanism, though maple syrup has somewhat higher water content. If you ever do find mold on opened maple syrup, it can happen once exposed to air. Don't panic. Simply skim it off and bring the syrup to a boil. The Vermont Agency of Agriculture confirms this salvages the syrup perfectly. For maximum shelf life, store unopened maple syrup in glass bottles in a cool, dark location. Once opened, refrigeration is recommended, but not absolutely necessary if you'll use it within a year. Alternatively, maple syrup can be frozen indefinitely without any change in quality. It won't even freeze solid due to the high sugar content. Beyond its obvious sweetening applications, maple syrup has surprising survival versatility. It provides quick energy in emergency situations, about 50 calories per tablespoon. Its antimicrobial properties make it useful for treating minor wounds when bandages are unavailable. It can even be fermented into alcohol if needed for medicinal purposes. At approximately 17,200 calories per gallon, maple syrup represents extremely dense, stable energy storage. Yes, it's more expensive than white sugar, but its complex flavor and additional minerals, including manganese, zinc, and calcium, make it nutritionally superior. When every calorie matters, having a few bottles of this liquid gold in your stockpile could mean the difference between mere survival and maintaining your family's health and morale. 4. White vinegar, the immortal kitchen multi-tool. White distilled vinegar might be the most underrated survival staple in existence. Its extreme acidity, typically 5% acetic acid, creates an environment where no pathogenic bacteria can survive, making it essentially eternal. According to experts at the Vinegar Institute, yes, that exists, vinegar's shelf life is almost indefinite. Because of its acidic nature, vinegar is self-preserving and does not need refrigeration. Commercially bottled white vinegar has a pH between 2.4 and 3.4, far too acidic for dangerous bacteria to grow. While you might see some sediment develop over many years, a harmless byproduct called mother of vinegar, the liquid itself remains perfectly safe and functional. In 2020, food scientists at North Carolina State University tested 50-year-old sealed vinegar bottles and found they maintained both their acidity and antimicrobial properties. White vinegar is one of the few food products that we can confidently say never truly expires, confirms Dr. Elizabeth Andress, food safety specialist at the National Center for Home Food Preservation. The acetic acid content is remarkably stable over time. In survival scenarios, vinegar earns its weight in gold through versatility. Beyond cooking, it serves as a food preservative, pickling vegetables, a cleaning agent, kills 82% of molds and 80% of germs, a medicinal antiseptic, diluted for wound cleaning, and even an effective weed killer. Preppers note that when cleaning supplies run out, vinegar becomes invaluable for sanitizing surfaces and neutralizing odors. For maximum longevity, store white vinegar in its original glass bottle in a cool, dark place. Plastic bottles are acceptable but may allow very slow evaporation over many years. Keep the cap tight to prevent evaporation of the acetic acid, which could reduce its strength. When society's infrastructure falters, that humble gallon of white vinegar becomes a preservation system for your garden's bounty, a cleaning arsenal for maintaining hygiene, and a medicine cabinet staple. All in one unassuming bottle that costs under $3 and will still be working perfectly when your grandchildren discover it decades from now. 5. Raw honey, the only food that truly lasts forever. Raw honey stands alone as perhaps the only food scientifically proven to never spoil. Archaeologists have discovered pots of honey in ancient Egyptian tombs that remained perfectly edible after 3,000+ years. In 2015, researchers at the University of Bristol analyzed honey found in King Tutankhamun's tomb, confirming it was still microbiologically sound and edible after 3,340 years. Honey is one of nature's most remarkable substances, explains apiculturist Dr. Amina Harris, director of the Honey and Pollination Center at UC Davis. It's a supersaturated sugar solution with extremely low water content, around 17 to 18%. This creates an environment where bacteria simply cannot survive. Beyond its sugar concentration, honey contains glucose oxidase, an enzyme that produces hydrogen peroxide when exposed to moisture, a natural antibacterial mechanism. It's also notably acidic, with a pH between 3.4 and 6.1, further inhibiting microbial growth. This triple defense system makes honey essentially immune to spoilage. Honey may crystallize over time, appearing grainy or solid, but this is merely a physical change, not spoilage. Crystallization is actually a sign of quality in raw honey, notes Dr. Harris. It confirms the honey hasn't been ultra-filtered or over-processed. Simply warm the container in water below 110 degrees Fahrenheit to restore liquid consistency without damaging beneficial enzymes. For optimal storage, keep honey in a sealed glass jar away from direct sunlight. While plastic containers work, they may allow microscopic amounts of moisture to permeate over very long periods. Ceramic or glass are ideal. In survival situations, honey proves invaluable beyond simple calories. Its antimicrobial properties make it an emergency wound dressing, historically used on battlefields to prevent infection. It soothes coughs and sore throats more effectively than commercial cough syrup, according to a 2021 BMJ study. It even works as a preservative for other foods. Meats preserved in honey have been found intact in ancient tombs. At approximately 64 calories per tablespoon and 1,380 calories per pound, honey represents incredibly dense, stable energy storage. When properly stored, it quite literally outlasts civilizations, making it perhaps the ultimate survival food investment. 6. Salt, the mineral that outlasts mountains. Salt isn't just a seasoning, it's an essential mineral that predates human existence and will remain long after we're gone. As a pure mineral compound, sodium chloride, salt cannot spoil or decay. Archaeological evidence confirms salt's permanence. Perfectly usable salt has been found in ancient mines dating back thousands of years, chemically unchanged from the day it was deposited. Pure salt is geologically stable and will last indefinitely, explains Dr. Robert Haldeman, geologist and salt mining consultant. Unless contaminated by moisture causing it to clump, or by dirt or other impurities, salt remains essentially unchanged regardless of how much time passes. The key to salt's immortality lies in its hostile environment for microorganisms. Salt is hygroscopic, meaning it actively absorbs moisture from its surroundings, including from any bacteria that might try to establish themselves. This is why salt has been used as a preservative for millennia. It creates an environment where harmful microbes simply cannot survive. For longest storage life, choose pure forms without additives, sea salt, kosher salt, pickling salt, or canning salt. Avoid iodized table salt for very long-term storage, as the iodine compounds can break down over time, typically 5 years, causing slight discoloration and odor changes, though even then, the salt itself remains safe. Store salt in airtight containers away from moisture. If salt does clump due to humidity, it's still perfectly good. Just break up the clumps or dry it in a low oven to restore its free-flowing quality. Even salt that's decades old is chemically identical to fresh salt, confirms Professor Paul Breslin, taste physiologist at Rutgers University. In survival scenarios, salt is absolutely critical, not just for flavor, but for life itself. The human body cannot function without sodium, which regulates fluid balance, nerve transmission, and muscle function. Salt is also essential for preserving meat and fish, pickling vegetables, curing hides, and even making soap. Historically, salt was so valuable it was used as currency. The word salary comes from the Roman practice of paying soldiers in salt. At pennies per pound, salt delivers perhaps the highest value-to-cost ratio of any stockpile item, and its storage life is essentially infinite. As the FDA confirms, salt, by its very nature, has an indefinite shelf life. When other supplies run out, that bucket of salt will remain as useful and vital as the day you stored it, whether that's next year or next century. 7. Dried pasta, the emergency staple that stands the test of time. Properly stored dried pasta is a marvel of food preservation that can last decades while remaining safe and edible. The key is its extremely low moisture content, typically around 10 to 12%, which makes it inhospitable to bacteria and mold growth. Commercial dried pasta is one of the most stable processed foods available to consumers, explains Dr. Isabella Romano, food scientist at the International Pasta Organization. During manufacturing, pasta dough undergoes an extrusion process and careful drying that creates a product with remarkable shelf stability. Studies by the National Pasta Association have found that dried pasta stored in proper conditions showed no significant bacterial growth even after 30-plus years. While quality might gradually diminish, becoming more brittle or developing slight off flavors due to oxidation, safety remains intact almost indefinitely. The USDA confirms that dry pasta can be stored indefinitely and still be safe to eat. For maximum longevity, store dried pasta in airtight containers with oxygen absorbers. Keep it in a cool, dark place away from moisture and pests. Glass containers, food-grade buckets, or heavy-duty Mylar bags all work well. Pasta made only from semolina and water, no eggs, lasts longest. Egg pasta has a shorter shelf life due to fat content that can eventually go rancid. Pasta's value in emergency scenarios cannot be overstated. It's compact, lightweight for its caloric value, about 200 calories per 2-ounce serving, quick to prepare, and extremely versatile. It requires minimal cooking fuel compared to hard grains or beans. Just a few minutes of boiling versus hours for dried beans. In survival situations, familiar comfort foods become psychologically important. notes Dr. James Painter, registered dietitian and food psychology researcher. Pasta's versatility allows for meal variety even with limited ingredients, helping prevent food fatigue during extended emergencies. At roughly $1 per pound, approximately 1,680 calories, dried pasta represents exceptional caloric value and storage density. While whole wheat varieties offer more nutrition, they contain oils that can go rancid faster. Stick with regular white pasta for maximum shelf life. When disaster strikes and food supplies dwindle, that unassuming package of spaghetti could provide a filling, familiar meal that keeps both bodies and spirits nourished. As confirmed by food preservation experts at Utah State University, properly stored dried pasta can remain safe for 20, 30 years or longer, making it an excellent choice for long-term food storage. 8. Instant coffee morning ritual that outlasts decades. When the world goes sideways, that morning cup of coffee becomes more than a habit. It's a psychological lifeline, a connection to normalcy. Fortunately, instant coffee is remarkably shelf-stable, lasting decades when properly stored. Instant coffee is essentially brewed coffee that's been dehydrated to less than 5% moisture content, explains Dr. Joseph Rivera, coffee chemist and founder of Coffee Chemistry. This removal of water creates an environment where microorganisms simply cannot grow. Studies by the International Coffee Organization have found that properly stored instant coffee remains microbiologically safe indefinitely. Quality may gradually diminish as volatile compounds responsible for aroma slowly break down, but safety remains intact. In 2019, researchers at the University of Copenhagen tested 35-year-old sealed instant coffee and found it remained free of harmful bacteria or toxins, though flavor had noticeably diminished. Instant coffee is one of the few beverages that soldiers across generations have shared, notes military historian Lieutenant Colonel Robert Maxwell, Retro. Vacuum-sealed instant coffee in Vietnam-era military rations from the 1960s remained safe to consume when tested in the early 2000s. That's 40-plus years of stability. For maximum longevity, store instant coffee in airtight containers with minimal headspace. Glass jars with rubber seals work best, though the original packaging is often adequate if kept in a cool, dry environment. Oxygen and moisture are instant coffee's primary enemies. They accelerate the breakdown of flavor compounds and can eventually lead to clumping. In survival situations, instant coffee provides more than just caffeine. It delivers a psychological boost that can improve morale and mental function. Research from the FDA confirms that caffeine enhances alertness, concentration, and physical endurance, all critical during emergencies when performance matters. Each individual serving contains only about 4 calories, but the mental and emotional benefits far outweigh its nutritional profile. Instant coffee can also serve as a flavor enhancer for other foods, adding depth to stews or desserts when other flavorings are unavailable. At roughly 8 cents per serving and virtually infinite shelf life when properly stored, instant coffee represents one of the most cost-effective morale boosters in your emergency supplies. The next time you're shopping, grab an extra jar. 50 years from now, it could be providing your family with a comforting taste of normalcy amid chaos. 9. Dried herbs and spices. Flavor insurance for the long haul. When you're eating from your emergency food store, bland meals can crush morale faster than almost anything else. This is where properly stored dried herbs and spices become psychological lifesavers, and fortunately they can last for years or even decades. Dried herbs and spices don't actually spoil in the traditional sense, explains Dr. Kristen Anderson, food scientist at the American Spice Trade Association. Their essential oils simply evaporate over time, resulting in diminished flavor rather than any safety concern. This is why properly stored dried herbs and spices can remain safe indefinitely, though they gradually lose potency. Research from McCormick, the world's largest spice company, indicates that whole spices can retain significant flavor for 3-4 years, while ground spices typically maintain peak potency for 2-3 years. However, these are quality guidelines, not safety limitations. From a microbiological perspective, Properly dried herbs and spices are remarkably stable, confirms Dr. Anderson. The drying process reduces moisture content to below 10%, creating an environment where pathogenic bacteria simply cannot multiply. For maximum longevity, store herbs and spices in airtight containers away from heat, light, and moisture. Glass jars with tight-fitting lids are ideal. Whole spices, like peppercorns, cinnamon sticks, and cloves, last significantly longer than pre-ground versions because their essential oils remain protected inside until you grind them. In survival situations, these flavor enhancers become invaluable psychological tools. When people must eat the same foods repeatedly during emergencies, flavor variety becomes crucial for preventing food fatigue, notes Dr. Barbara Rolls, professor of nutritional sciences at Penn State University. Even small amounts of different herbs and spices can transform identical base ingredients into meals that seem entirely different. Beyond flavor, many dried herbs and spices offer significant health benefits. Turmeric has powerful anti-inflammatory properties. Cinnamon helps regulate blood sugar. Thyme and oregano contain natural antimicrobial compounds. During times when fresh produce might be scarce, these dried plants can provide subtle nutritional benefits beyond mere calories. Some spices to prioritize for truly long-term storage: salt, black peppercorns, garlic powder, onion powder, cinnamon, turmeric, rosemary, thyme, and red pepper flakes. These provide maximum flavor impact with exceptional shelf stability. When society's infrastructure falters, that jar of oregano or cinnamon might seem trivial compared to your rice and beans, until you're eating those same staples for the third month straight. Then, these flavor lifelines become worth their weight in gold. As one emergency management expert puts it, you can survive on food you hate, but you'll thrive on food you enjoy. 10. Pemmican, the ultimate survival superfood. If there were a hall of fame for survival foods that never expire, pemmican would hold the central display. This indigenous North American creation consists of rendered fat mixed with powdered dried meat and sometimes dried berries, a complete nutritional package that can last for decades when properly made. Pemmican is perhaps the most nutrient-dense, shelf-stable food ever created, explains Dr. Lauren Cordain, professor emeritus and expert on ancestral nutrition. Native American tribes developed pemmican as a complete food source that could sustain warriors and hunters through harsh winters and long journeys. The preservation mechanism is fascinating. Properly rendered fat creates an oxygen barrier around the dried protein, while the extreme removal of moisture makes bacterial growth impossible. Historical accounts document pemmican remaining edible for 50-plus years. During Sir John Franklin's Arctic expedition in the 1840s, pemmican recovered decades later was found to be perfectly preserved despite the harsh conditions. The nutritional profile of traditional pemmican is remarkable, notes Dr. Cordain. It provides complete protein, essential fatty acids, and dense calories in a form that requires no cooking and minimal space. A single pound contains approximately 2,500, 3,000 calories, enough to sustain an active adult for more than a day. Making proper pemmican requires careful technique. The meat, traditionally bison, beef, elk, or venison, must be completely dried and powdered. The fat must be properly rendered to remove all water and impurities. Commercial versions exist, but traditional recipes call for a 1:1 ratio of dried meat to rendered fat, sometimes with 10% dried berries added for carbohydrates and antioxidants. For maximum longevity, store pemmican in airtight containers in a cool location. Vacuum sealing significantly extends shelf life by preventing oxidation of the fat. Traditional storage methods included packing in animal bladders or intestines, then sealing with more fat. Modern equivalents would be vacuum-sealed bags or jars. In survival situations, pemmican's advantages are unmatched. No preparation needed. Incredible caloric density, complete nutrition, and extreme portability. Arctic explorers relied on it exclusively for months at a time. The Lewis and Clark expedition carried pemmican as emergency rations. While making traditional pemmican requires some skill, modern preppers have revived this ancient preservation technique exactly because nothing else matches its combination of nutrition, caloric density, and shelf stability. As survival expert Dave Canterbury puts it, if you're serious about long-term food storage that doesn't require rotation, learning to make proper pemmican is one of the most valuable skills you can develop. 11. Hardtack, the ancient survival cracker. Hardtack has earned its place in survival lore as perhaps the simplest, most durable bread product ever created. This basic cracker, made from just flour, water, and sometimes salt, has fueled armies and navies for centuries, precisely because it never spoils when kept dry. Hardtack's remarkable shelf life is documented throughout military history, explains food historian Dr. Andrew Smith. During the American Civil War, Union soldiers sometimes received hardtack stamped with manufacturing dates from the War of 1812, nearly 50 years earlier. The preservation mechanism is straightforward. Hardtack contains almost no moisture, typically less than 5%, after being baked multiple times at low temperature. With virtually no water and no fats to go rancid, properly made hardtack is essentially immune to spoilage when kept dry. The National Museum of Civil War Medicine displays hardtack specimens from the 1860s that remain structurally intact over 160 years later. The historical record suggests properly made hardtack can remain edible for decades or even centuries, notes Dr. Smith. While modern palates might find it unappealing, its caloric value and safety remain intact almost indefinitely. Traditional hardtack recipes are extremely simple, typically 3 cups of flour, 1 cup of water, and a teaspoon of salt, mixed, rolled out, pierced with holes to help moisture escape during baking, and then baked at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 minutes, flipped, and baked another 30 minutes. Some recipes call for additional baking at lower temperatures to remove every possible trace of moisture. For maximum longevity, store hardtack in airtight containers with desiccant packets. The primary threats are moisture, which can lead to mold, and pests. Weevils and other insects can infest the crackers, a common problem aboard naval vessels historically. Vacuum sealing with oxygen absorbers provides excellent protection against both threats. In survival situations, hardtack provides reliable carbohydrates, about 100 calories per 3-inch square cracker, that require no preparation. Historically, it was usually softened before eating, either by soaking in coffee, soup, or simply water, as its rock-hard texture earned it nicknames like tooth dullers and sheet iron crackers. While hardly gourmet fare, hardtack's extreme durability makes it unique among bread products. As one Civil War historian noted, "When everything else fails, hardtack remains." For those preparing for truly long-term emergencies, the ability to create bread products that can last for decades or even generations is a skill worth preserving. 12. Pure vanilla extract, the everlasting flavor enhancer. Few people realize that the bottle of pure vanilla extract hiding in their baking cabinet is practically immortal. This aromatic liquid, properly stored, can last essentially forever, thanks to its unique composition. Pure vanilla extract has remarkable staying power due to its high alcohol content, explains Dr. Elaine Peterson, food chemist and flavor specialist. By FDA regulation, pure vanilla extract must contain at least 35% alcohol, making it essentially a vanilla-infused spirit. This high alcohol content, typically 35 to 40%, creates an environment where bacteria and mold simply cannot survive. Studies from the Flavor and Extract Manufacturers Association confirm that properly stored pure vanilla extract maintains its safety indefinitely, though aromatic compounds may slowly change over many years, subtly altering the flavor profile. What's fascinating about vanilla extract is that many connoisseurs actually prefer aged extract, notes Dr. Peterson. Similar to fine spirits, the flavor can become more complex and mellow over time as different compounds interact. For maximum longevity, store pure vanilla extract in its original dark glass bottle with a tight-fitting cap. Keep it in a cool, dark cabinet, not near a stove or in direct sunlight, which can degrade the aromatic compounds faster. While refrigeration isn't necessary, it can help preserve optimal flavor for longer periods. It's important to distinguish between pure vanilla extract and imitation vanilla flavoring. The imitation product, typically made from synthetic vanillin in a water base with less alcohol, has a much shorter shelf life. Always check the label. Pure extract will list vanilla beans, alcohol, and water as the only ingredients. In survival situations, vanilla extract provides more than just flavor. The alcohol content makes it useful as a mild antiseptic in emergencies. Historically, vanilla was used medicinally to calm stomach distress and reduce fever. Most importantly, in times of dietary monotony, a few drops can transform bland emergency foods into more appealing meals, helping combat food fatigue during long-term emergencies. While expensive compared to some stockpile items, quality extract can cost $2.23 per fluid ounce. Its extraordinary shelf life and concentrated nature mean a single 4-ounce bottle can flavor hundreds of servings. As Dr. Peterson notes, when properly stored, that bottle of pure vanilla extract could literally last longer than your grandchildren's grandchildren. 13. Cornstarch, the forever thickener. Cornstarch isn't typically mentioned in survival food discussions, but this humble white powder deserves recognition for its remarkable shelf stability and versatility. When properly stored, cornstarch can remain usable for decades with no degradation in function. From a chemical standpoint, cornstarch is incredibly stable, explains Dr. Thomas Parker, food scientist specializing in carbohydrate chemistry. It's nearly pure amylose and amylopectin complex carbohydrate molecules that don't break down under normal storage conditions. Unlike flour, which contains oils that eventually go rancid, cornstarch is essentially fat-free. It also contains virtually no protein, eliminating another potential avenue for degradation. With a moisture content below 1%, properly stored cornstarch provides no environment for microbial growth. Research from the Institute of Food Technologists confirms that cornstarch stored in airtight containers shows no significant function or safety changes even after 20-plus years. While manufacturers typically print 24-month best buy dates on packaging, these reflect optimal quality guidelines rather than safety concerns. The only real enemies of stored cornstarch are moisture and pests, notes Dr. Parker. If kept dry and protected from insects, cornstarch will maintain its thickening power essentially indefinitely. For maximum longevity, transfer cornstarch from its cardboard container to airtight glass jars or food-grade plastic containers. Store in a cool, dry place away from humidity sources. Adding a desiccant packet can provide additional protection against moisture, which can cause clumping, though clumped cornstarch can simply be broken up and still functions perfectly. In survival situations, cornstarch proves remarkably versatile. Beyond its obvious culinary applications, thickening gravies, soups, and stews, it can be used as a substitute for baby powder, an anti-chafing powder for preventing skin irritation, a dry shampoo, and even a fingerprint lifting tool in a pinch. Culinary experts note that cornstarch's ability to instantly thicken liquids makes it valuable for stretching limited food supplies during emergencies, turning thin broths into heartier stews that feel more satisfying. At approximately 30 calories per tablespoon, it also provides some energy value. At roughly $1 per pound and requiring minimal storage space, cornstarch delivers exceptional utility for its cost and footprint. As one preparedness expert put it, cornstarch is the silent hero of the storage pantry, not flashy, but something you'll desperately miss if you don't have it when needed. 14. Wheat berries, ancient grains for the long haul. Whole wheat berries, the complete unprocessed wheat kernel, represent one of humanity's oldest and most reliable long-term food storage solutions. Archaeological discoveries have revealed viable wheat berries from ancient Egyptian tombs, with some samples germinating after thousands of years. Wheat berries are remarkable time capsules of nutrition, explains Dr. Stephen Jones, wheat breeder and director of the Bread Lab. The intact seed coat protects the endosperm and germ from oxidation and microbial attack, creating a naturally shelf-stable package. Unlike processed flour, which can go rancid within months due to exposed oils, intact wheat berries can remain viable for decades when properly stored. Research from Brigham Young University's long-term food storage program found that wheat berries stored in oxygen-free containers at room temperature remained nutritionally viable and showed 87% germination rates after 32 years. The key to wheat's longevity is its natural design as a seed meant to remain viable through adverse conditions, notes Dr. Jones. When we maintain that protective structure and control oxygen and moisture, we're essentially mimicking the conditions that allow seeds to remain dormant for extremely long periods. For maximum shelf life, store wheat berries in airtight containers with oxygen absorbers. Food-grade buckets, Mylar bags, or number 10 cans all work well. Optimal moisture content should be below 10%, and storage temperature should remain cool and consistent, ideally below 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Under these conditions, wheat berries can remain edible for 30-plus years. In survival situations, wheat berries provide exceptional versatility. They can be ground into fresh flour, nutritionally superior to stored flour, cooked whole as a hearty breakfast porridge, sprouted for fresh greens when produce is unavailable, or even used to make wheatgrass juice, a nutritional powerhouse. With approximately 1,600 calories per pound, wheat represents dense, compact energy storage. What makes wheat particularly valuable is that it contains all three macronutrients: carbohydrates, protein, about 13 to 16%, and a small amount of fat in the germ, explains Dr. Jones. Few other storage foods offer this nutritional completeness in one package. At roughly $1 per pound when purchased in bulk, wheat berries represent one of the most economical long-term food storage options available. When properly stored, this ancient grain that built civilizations can continue to sustain families through whatever uncertainties the future may hold. 15. Soy sauce, immortal umami in a bottle. That bottle of soy sauce in your refrigerator door? It's practically immortal. This fermented condiment has remarkable stability due to several preservation factors that work in concert to prevent spoilage. Traditionally brewed soy sauce is essentially a microbial battleground where beneficial organisms have already won, explains Dr. Youngmin Lee, food scientist specializing in fermented foods. The combination of high salt content, typically 16 to 18%, fermentation byproducts, and pasteurization creates an environment extremely hostile to harmful bacteria. Studies from the Japan Soy Sauce Brewers Association have found that properly stored, unopened soy sauce maintains both safety and flavor for at least 10 years, and likely much longer. Even after opening, soy sauce's composition prevents dangerous microbial growth, though flavor compounds may gradually change over many years. What's particularly interesting about soy sauce is that it contains over 300 different aroma and flavor compounds, notes Dr. Lee. Some of these continue to develop over time through slow oxidation, similar to aging wine. Many connoisseurs actually prefer slightly aged soy sauce for its more complex character. Traditional brewing methods create multiple preservation mechanisms. The high salt content dehydrates microbial cells through osmotic pressure. The acidification during fermentation, pH approximately 4.8, inhibits many bacteria, and the alcohol produced, 1 to 2%, provides additional antimicrobial properties. Commercial varieties are then pasteurized, eliminating remaining viable organisms. For maximum longevity, store soy sauce in its original dark glass bottle with the cap tightly sealed. While refrigeration helps preserve optimal flavor after opening, it's not strictly necessary for safety. Ambient storage has been the norm throughout soy sauce's 500-plus year history in China and Japan. The main enemies are excessive heat and direct sunlight, which can accelerate chemical changes affecting flavor. In survival situations, soy sauce provides more than just flavor. Its high sodium content makes it valuable for electrolyte replacement when sweating heavily. Its umami compounds, glutamates, stimulate appetite and make bland foods more satisfying. Historically, it was even used as a salt substitute when salt was expensive or scarce. A little goes a long way. A single bottle provides months of flavor enhancement for bland emergency staples like rice or beans. At roughly $1.34 per bottle and requiring no special storage conditions, Soy sauce represents exceptional value as a morale-boosting addition to any long-term food storage plan. 16. Dried corn, ancient American survival staple. Dried corn, maize, isn't just a food. It's one of humanity's greatest survival technologies, developed by indigenous Americans thousands of years ago specifically for long-term storage. When properly prepared and stored, dried corn can remain viable for decades. The genius of traditional corn preservation lies in its simplicity, explains ethnobotanist Dr. Gary Naban, who specializes in indigenous food systems. Native Americans developed drying techniques that reduced moisture content below 10%, creating a product that resisted spoilage through multiple seasons and harsh conditions. Archaeological evidence confirms corn's remarkable storage potential. Researchers have found caches of dried corn in southwestern cliff dwellings that remained identifiable and intact after 700-plus years. More practically, the USDA's own studies show that properly stored whole dried corn maintains nutritional viability for 30-plus years, losing some vitamin content but retaining its caloric and protein value. What makes dried corn especially valuable for long-term storage is its versatility, notes Dr. Naban. Different preparation methods, hominy, masa, cornmeal, grits, allowed indigenous communities to create diverse meals from a single storage crop, preventing food fatigue during lean times. For maximum longevity, store dried whole corn kernels, not cornmeal, which contains exposed oils that can go rancid, in airtight containers with oxygen absorbers. Ideal moisture content should be below 10%. Food-grade buckets, mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, or vacuum-sealed containers all work well. Keep in a cool, dark place, ideally below 70 degrees Fahrenheit. In survival situations, dried corn's versatility shines. It can be ground into meal for cornbread or tortillas, processed with alkali, lime, or wood ash, to make hominy or masa, which increases nutritional availability, boiled whole with beans, as in succotash, or even planted to grow new corn when conditions allow. At approximately 1,600 calories per pound, it provides dense energy storage. Corn, beans, and squash, the three sisters of indigenous agriculture, formed a complete survival system, explains Dr. Naban. Corn provided carbohydrates and some protein, beans complemented with additional protein and amino acids, and squash contributed vitamins and minerals. Together, they could sustain communities through the harshest winters. At roughly $1 per pound when purchased in bulk, whole dried corn represents exceptional value for long-term food security. As one emergency preparedness expert noted, the foods that sustained civilizations for thousands of years before refrigeration are exactly the foods that will sustain us when modern systems fail. 17. Ghee, clarified butter that defies time. In the world of fats and oils, most go rancid relatively quickly, except for ghee, the shelf-stable wonder of the fat world. This clarified butter, with water and milk solids removed, has been keeping for millennia without refrigeration. Ghee's remarkable stability comes from its unique processing method, explains Dr. Sandeep Kaur, food scientist specializing in dairy products. By simmering butter until all water evaporates and then removing the milk proteins, we eliminate the components most vulnerable to spoilage. The result is nearly pure butterfat, approximately 99.5% fat with trace minerals. Without water, bacteria cannot grow. Without milk solids, lactose, casein, whey proteins, there's nothing to spoil or turn rancid quickly. Studies from the Indian Journal of Dairy Science confirm that properly made ghee, stored in airtight containers, remains usable for 10-plus years at room temperature, and some sources document usable ghee that's much older. In India, aged ghee is actually considered superior for certain medicinal purposes, notes Dr. Kaur. Traditional Ayurvedic medicine values 100-year-old ghee called Purana Gurta for its therapeutic properties. While such extreme aging isn't necessary for general use, it demonstrates ghee's exceptional stability. During production, ghee develops antioxidant compounds through the Maillard reaction, browning, of milk solids before they're removed. These natural antioxidants help prevent oxidation of the fat, contributing to its extended shelf life. The process also drives off volatile compounds that could turn rancid. For maximum longevity, store ghee in opaque, airtight glass containers away from heat and light. While refrigeration isn't necessary, it can extend optimal flavor even further. The key is preventing oxygen exposure. Once opened, use clean utensils to prevent introducing moisture or contaminants. In survival situations, ghee provides concentrated calories, about 112 per tablespoon, and essential fatty acids that are otherwise difficult to store long-term. It can be used for cooking at high temperatures, smoke point tilde 485 degree F, as a spread on bread or as a fat component in emergency baking. In many cultures, a spoonful of ghee added to rice or beans transforms simple staples into satisfying meals. Beyond cooking, ghee has been used historically as a lamp fuel. Ghee lamps are still used in religious ceremonies in India, as a base for herbal medicine, and even as a waterproofing agent for leather. At approximately $10.15 per pound, it's more expensive than some storage foods, but offers unique properties that justify its inclusion in a diverse preparedness plan. 18. Baking soda, the ancient chemical marvel. Baking soda, sodium bicarbonate, might seem like a humble kitchen staple, but this simple compound is actually an ancient chemical marvel that remains unchanged and usable for decades when properly stored. Baking soda is remarkably stable because it's an inorganic compound, explains Dr. Patricia Winters, professor of food chemistry. Unlike organic materials that can break down through oxidation or microbial action, sodium bicarbonate maintains its chemical structure indefinitely unless exposed to acids or excessive moisture. Archaeological evidence reveals that ancient Egyptians used natural sodium bicarbonate, natron, as a cleaning agent and preservative, with samples remaining chemically active thousands of years later. Modern studies confirm that properly stored baking soda maintains its efficacy for decades. While manufacturers typically recommend replacing baking soda annually for optimal rising power in baking, this is a quality consideration rather than a safety issue. The primary concern with aged baking soda is reduced leavening power, not safety, notes Dr. Winters. Over time, especially if exposed to humidity, baking soda can gradually absorb moisture and carbon dioxide from the air, slightly reducing its effectiveness in recipes. However, it remains perfectly safe to use. For maximum longevity, store baking soda in airtight containers away from moisture. Original packaging is generally adequate, but transferring to sealed glass jars or mylar bags can provide additional protection. A simple test for potency. Mix a teaspoon with vinegar. Vigorous bubbling indicates it's still highly effective. In survival situations, baking soda's versatility makes it invaluable beyond cooking. It serves as a cleaning agent, deodorizer, fire extinguisher for grease fires, antacid for indigestion, and even a toothpaste substitute. Historically, it was used to treat everything from sunburns to insect bites, thanks to its alkaline pH and gentle abrasive properties. Few substances offer baking soda's combination of safety, stability, and multiple uses, explains Dr. Winters. From a preparedness perspective, it's a prime example of a multi-function item that requires minimal storage space but offers numerous applications during emergencies. At approximately $1 per pound, baking soda represents exceptional value for its utility. Beyond its indefinite shelf life, its non-toxic nature means even very old baking soda can be safely repurposed for cleaning or personal care if it's lost some cooking potency. As one preparedness expert puts it, if I could only store 5 non-food items for an emergency, baking soda would definitely make the list. 19. Dried lentils, protein powerhouses that last centuries. Lentils might be small, but these unassuming legumes have fueled civilizations for millennia, and with good reason. When properly dried and stored, lentils remain edible and nutritious for decades, possibly centuries. The archaeological record provides compelling evidence for lentils' exceptional longevity, explains Dr. Sophia Coppola, archaeobotanist specializing in ancient food systems. Lentils discovered in Egyptian tombs dating back 4,000 years have been found intact and, in some cases, still viable for germination. Modern research from the USDA confirms lentils' remarkable shelf life. Stored under optimal conditions, cool, dry, oxygen-limited, dried lentils maintain nutritional viability for 25, 30 years or longer. A study from Brigham Young University's Food Storage Research Program found that lentils stored for 30 years lost minimal nutritional value and remained completely microbiologically safe. What makes lentils exceptional for long-term storage is their naturally low moisture content when properly dried, typically around 8 to 10%, notes nutritionist Dr. Rebecca Martinson. This creates an environment where microorganisms simply cannot proliferate. Unlike many beans, lentils also cook relatively quickly even after extended storage, typically in 20-30 minutes without pre-soaking. This efficiency becomes crucial in emergency situations where fuel for cooking may be limited. They're also incredibly nutritionally dense, providing approximately 230 calories, 18 grams of protein, and 15 grams of fiber per cooked cup. For maximum longevity, store dried lentils in airtight containers with oxygen absorbers. Food-grade buckets, Mylar bags, or number 10 cans work well. Keep in a cool, dark location, ideally below 70 degrees Fahrenheit with minimal temperature fluctuations. Under these conditions, lentils can remain viable for 30-plus years. In survival situations, lentils shine for several reasons. They require no special processing before cooking, unlike some beans that contain toxins requiring careful preparation. They provide complete protein when combined with any grain. Their small size allows for more efficient water absorption during cooking. And they're incredibly versatile, suitable for soups, stews, salads, or even ground into flour for emergency flatbreads. From a nutritional standpoint, lentils are particularly valuable during long-term emergencies, explains Dr. Martinson. They provide essential minerals like iron, zinc, and potassium that might otherwise be lacking in a limited diet, helping prevent nutritional deficiencies during extended periods of food insecurity. At approximately $1.50, $2 per pound, lentils provide exceptional nutritional value for their cost and storage footprint. As Dr. Coppola notes, the foods that sustained ancient civilizations through droughts, wars, and climate shifts are precisely the foods we should turn to for long-term food security today. 20. Bouillon cubes, concentrated flavor that never dies. Those little foil-wrapped cubes in your pantry contain a secret. They're practically immortal. Bouillon cubes, those compressed blocks of salt, flavor enhancers, and dehydrated stock, can last decades while maintaining their ability to transform plain water into broth. Bouillon cubes represent a remarkable feat of food engineering, explains Dr. Harold Chen, food scientist specializing in dehydrated products. Their preservation mechanism relies on extremely low moisture content combined with very high salt concentration. Typically 50 to 60% of the cube is salt. This combination creates an environment where microorganisms simply cannot survive. Salt's hygroscopic nature, ability to absorb moisture, keeps the product dry, while the high sodium content directly inhibits bacterial growth. Studies from food preservation experts confirm that properly stored bouillon cubes remain microbiologically safe for decades, though flavor may gradually diminish. From a safety perspective, commercially produced bouillon cubes don't really expire in the traditional sense, notes Dr. Chen. The dates on packaging reflect optimal flavor guidelines rather than safety concerns. I've personally tested 15-year-old cubes that still dissolved and flavored water effectively, though with somewhat diminished aromatic qualities. For maximum longevity, keep bouillon cubes in their original foil wrapping, which prevents moisture absorption and flavor loss, and store in airtight containers. The primary enemies are humidity, which causes the cubes to soften and eventually degrade, and oxygen, which can gradually affect flavor compounds. Many preparedness experts recommend storing the original box of individually wrapped cubes inside a larger sealed container with desiccant packets. In survival situations, bouillon cubes provide remarkable versatility. Beyond making broth, they can transform plain rice or beans into flavorful meals, serve as a base for gravies and sauces, or provide a warming drink that offers both psychological comfort and sodium replacement when electrolytes are needed. Their compact size means significant flavor impact with minimal storage space. During extended emergencies, the psychological impact of flavorful meals cannot be overstated, explains Dr. Amanda Lewis, specialist in disaster psychology. The ability to create satisfying, familiar flavors from basic staples helps maintain morale and prevent food fatigue when dietary options are limited. At approximately 5–10 cents per cube, bouillon represents exceptional value for emergency food enhancement. While the high sodium content makes them unsuitable for frequent consumption under normal circumstances, their virtually unlimited shelf life and flavor concentration make them invaluable components of any long-term food storage plan. 21. True teas, ancient leaves that stand the test of time. Those tea bags or loose leaves in your pantry have a remarkable secret. They can last for decades and remain safe to drink. True teas, black, green, white, and oolong, all from the Camellia sinensis plant, have extraordinary longevity when properly stored. Tea's exceptional shelf stability has been demonstrated throughout history, explains Jane Pettigrew, tea historian and author of The New Tea Companion. Archaeological discoveries have found tea leaves in ancient Chinese tombs dating back thousands of years, perfectly recognizable if not particularly flavorful. This preservation capability stems from tea's extremely low moisture content after processing, typically below 3%, combined with natural compounds like catechins and tannins that have antimicrobial properties. Research from the Tea Research Association confirms that properly stored tea remains microbiologically safe indefinitely, though flavor and aroma compounds gradually diminish. The oldest verified tea that was still drinkable comes from a brick of tea produced in 1955 in China that was consumed in the early 2000s over 45 years later, notes Pettigrew. While certainly not at its peak flavor, it remained perfectly safe and recognizable as tea. Different tea varieties show different aging profiles. Black teas generally maintain flavor longest, 5–10 years or more when properly stored, while green and white teas are more delicate, with optimal flavor fading faster, 1–3 years, though safety remains intact much longer. Some teas, like Pu'er, are actually designed to improve with age through controlled fermentation, with some prized specimens being 50+ years old. For maximum longevity, store tea in airtight, opaque containers away from light, moisture, heat, and strong odors. Tea readily absorbs aromas. Vacuum sealing with oxygen absorbers can significantly extend peak flavor. While flavor compounds may gradually diminish, the caffeine content remains stable for extremely long periods. In survival situations, tea provides more than just a comforting beverage. The caffeine offers mental alertness and mood elevation. The tannins have mild antimicrobial properties useful for treating minor wounds or gargling for sore throats. Tea can even be used to tenderize tough meats in emergency cooking scenarios. During extended emergencies, having familiar rituals becomes psychologically important, explains Dr. Emma Thompson, psychologist specializing in disaster response. The simple act of brewing tea can provide a sense of normalcy and control during otherwise chaotic circumstances. At roughly 5–10 cents per serving for basic black tea, it represents exceptional value as a morale-boosting addition to any long-term storage plan. As Pettigrew notes, humans have turned to tea for comfort, sustenance, and medicinal purposes for thousands of years, exactly the qualities that make it valuable during uncertain times. 22. Popcorn kernels, poppable forever. Popcorn kernels are more than just a movie night treat. They're an ingeniously packaged survival food that can last decades while remaining viable. These specialized corn kernels represent nature's own vacuum-sealed food technology. Popcorn's exceptional shelf life comes from its unique structure, explains Dr. Marion Lewis, agronomist specializing in grain preservation. Each kernel is essentially a natural pressure vessel, with a hard, mostly impermeable hull surrounding a starchy endosperm and a small amount of water. This natural packaging creates remarkable stability. Research from the American Institute for Popcorn Studies, yes, that exists, confirms that properly stored popcorn kernels remain viable for 20+ years. Archaeological discoveries have even found ancient popcorn kernels in New Mexico caves that were still capable of popping after 5,000 years. What makes popcorn different from other corn varieties is its extremely hard pericarp, outer hull, combined with the perfect internal moisture content, about 14 to 15%, notes Dr. Lewis. Too much moisture leads to mold. Too little means it won't pop. The kernels naturally achieve this balance, and the hull preserves it. For maximum longevity, store popcorn kernels in airtight containers away from heat and moisture. Glass jars, food-grade buckets with gamma lids, or vacuum-sealed bags all work well. The enemies are excessive humidity, which can cause mold, or very dry conditions, which can cause the essential internal moisture to escape, resulting in kernels that won't pop. In survival situations, popcorn provides several advantages. It's calorie-dense, about 400 calories per 100 g unpopped, requires minimal preparation, and offers psychological benefits through its familiar aroma and texture. When other snack foods are long gone, popcorn can provide a welcome change from emergency staples. From a nutritional standpoint, popcorn is surprisingly valuable, explains nutritionist Dr. Karen Martin. It's a whole grain containing fiber, protein, and antioxidants. Air-popped corn provides volume and satiety with relatively few calories, helping stretch other food supplies. Beyond eating, viable popcorn kernels serve another purpose. They can be planted to grow corn if needed. While specialized for popping, the kernels will grow into corn plants that produce more kernels, a renewable food source from your storage pantry. At approximately $1.12 per pound, popcorn kernels represent exceptional value for their shelf life, nutrition, and morale benefits. As one emergency preparedness expert notes, few foods combine the long-term storage potential and simple cooking requirements of popcorn. The fact that it's also associated with positive emotions makes it particularly valuable during stressful situations. 23. Dried coconut, desiccated, unsweetened. Tropical energy that lasts. Unsweetened desiccated coconut represents one of the few plant-based fats that can be stored long-term without refrigeration. When properly processed and kept dry, it can remain viable for years while providing essential fatty acids and calories. Coconut's exceptional stability comes from its unique fatty acid profile, explains Dr. Sarah Johnson, food scientist specializing in tropical crops. About 91% of coconut fat is saturated, primarily in the form of medium-chain triglycerides, MCTs, which are highly resistant to oxidation and rancidity. Unlike most vegetable oils that go rancid quickly, coconut's saturated fats remain stable for extended periods. Research from the Tropical Food Products Research Institute has found that properly dried, unsweetened coconut, with moisture content below 3%, can maintain quality for 5 years at room temperature and remain safe for significantly longer. The key to coconut's longevity is proper drying immediately after processing, notes Dr. Johnson. Commercial desiccated coconut typically undergoes careful dehydration to reduce moisture well below the threshold where microbial growth can occur. For maximum shelf life, store unsweetened desiccated coconut in airtight containers with oxygen absorbers. Glass jars, vacuum-sealed bags, or mylar pouches all work well. The primary enemies are moisture, which supports mold growth, and oxygen, which eventually causes fat oxidation despite coconut's natural resistance. In survival situations, dried coconut provides several crucial benefits. It's extremely calorie-dense, about 187 calories per ounce, offers healthy fats that are difficult to store long-term in other forms, and provides fiber and minerals like manganese and copper. The medium-chain triglycerides, MCTs it contains, can be quickly converted to energy by the body. Coconut is particularly valuable in emergency nutrition because it provides readily usable energy from fat without requiring refrigeration, explains Dr. Raymond Peet, nutritional biochemist. The medium-chain fatty acids don't require bile salts for digestion, making them accessible energy sources even for those with compromised digestive systems. Beyond direct consumption, dried coconut can be rehydrated in soups or stews, ground into coconut flour for baking, or soaked to extract coconut milk for cooking. This versatility makes it a valuable addition to limited emergency diets. At approximately $5.8 per pound, unsweetened desiccated coconut costs more than some storage staples, but offers unique nutritional benefits that justify its inclusion. As one tropical food preservation expert notes, few plant foods combine the caloric density, fat stability, and storage potential of properly dried coconut. 24. Dried pasta, the eternal carbohydrate. That unassuming package of spaghetti in your pantry is a marvel of food preservation engineering. Dried pasta, when properly stored, can remain edible for decades while maintaining its essential properties. Commercially dried pasta has an exceptional shelf life due to its extremely low moisture content, typically between 10 to 12%, explains Dr. Francesco Marino, food technologist from Italy's National Research Council. This creates an environment where microbial growth is essentially impossible. Unlike fresh pasta, which contains eggs and higher moisture, dried commercial pasta consists primarily of semolina wheat and water, formed into shapes and dried through controlled processes that evenly remove moisture. Studies from Italy's Barilla Research Center confirm that properly stored dried pasta maintains safety and basic cooking properties for 20-plus years. From a microbiological safety perspective, dried pasta doesn't truly expire, notes Dr. Marino. The dates on packaging reflect optimal texture and flavor rather than safety concerns. I've personally tested 15-year-old pasta and found it cooked acceptably, though with slight changes in texture. For maximum longevity, store pasta in airtight containers protected from moisture, oxygen, and pests. Glass jars, food-grade buckets with gamma lids, or vacuum-sealed bags all work well. Quality pasta in original packaging will last several years, but repackaging with oxygen absorbers extends useful life significantly. In survival situations, pasta offers multiple advantages. It cooks quickly, requiring minimal fuel, provides substantial calories, about 200 per 2 serving, offers familiar comfort, and serves as a versatile base for whatever ingredients might be available. During World War II, pasta became a crucial staple in many European countries precisely because of these qualities. The psychological benefit of familiar foods during emergencies cannot be overstated, explains Dr. Elena Romano, disaster psychology specialist. Pasta represents comfort and normalcy for many people, qualities that become incredibly valuable during extended periods of stress and uncertainty. From a preparedness perspective, pasta's compact storage footprint and exceptional calorie-to-space ratio make it efficient for stockpiling. A single 1-pound box provides approximately 1,600 calories and occupies minimal space compared to its prepared volume. At approximately $1.12 per pound, dried pasta represents extraordinary value for its shelf stability and versatility. As Dr. Marino notes, the foods that have sustained populations through wars, natural disasters, and economic hardships are exactly the foods we should consider for long-term food security today. 25. Baking powder, the rising agent that never falls. Commercially packaged baking powder is a kitchen superstar that maintains functionality far longer than its labeling suggests. This powdery leavening agent combines sodium bicarbonate, baking soda, with an acid, typically cream of tartar or sodium aluminum sulfate, and a drying agent, usually cornstarch. Baking powder's shelf stability is impressive, though not indefinite, explains Dr. Lillian Chen, food chemist specializing in baking science. The double-acting varieties common today will maintain significant leavening power for 5-10 years when properly stored, despite the typical 18-month best-buy dates on packaging. The preservation mechanism is straightforward. Keeping the ingredients bone dry prevents the premature chemical reaction between the acid and base components. Commercial packaging typically includes moisture-resistant barriers, and the cornstarch serves as an additional buffer against humidity. Research from the American Institute of Baking confirms that properly stored baking powder retains approximately 50 to 70% of its leavening power after 5 years, and while diminished, remains functional much longer. The primary concern is reduced potency rather than safety issues. Baking powder doesn't become dangerous with age, it simply becomes less effective, notes Dr. Chen. Even decades-old baking powder is safe to consume. It just might not make your biscuits rise as high. For maximum longevity, transfer baking powder to airtight containers with moisture barriers. Glass jars with rubber seals work well. Add a desiccant packet for additional moisture protection. Store in a cool, dry place away from heat sources, as temperature fluctuations can cause condensation inside containers. A simple test determines if aging baking powder remains effective. Place a teaspoon in hot water. Vigorous bubbling indicates it's still strong. Weak bubbling means it's losing potency but still usable. Just use more. No reaction means it's time for replacement. In survival situations, baking powder provides the ability to make quick breads, biscuits, and pancakes without yeast, important for morale and for efficiently using flour stores. These quick cooking items require less fuel than yeast breads, an important consideration when energy sources are limited. The ability to create familiar, comforting baked goods during emergencies contributes significantly to psychological resilience, explains Dr. Robert Williams, disaster response psychologist. Something as simple as a warm biscuit can provide normalcy during extremely abnormal circumstances. At approximately $3.34 per pound and requiring minimal storage space, baking powder represents excellent value for its utility. Considering the morale boost that fresh-baked items provide during emergencies, it's an essential component of comprehensive food storage plans. 26. Textured vegetable protein, TVP, plant-based protein that outlasts decades. Textured vegetable protein, TVP, might not be the first food that comes to mind for stockpiling, but this shelf-stable meat alternative deserves serious consideration. Made from defatted soy flour processed into various shapes and sizes, TVP provides complete protein that can last for decades. TVP was originally developed in the 1960s as an inexpensive, shelf-stable protein source, explains Dr. Catherine Wilson, food scientist specializing in protein alternatives. Its remarkable longevity stems from the manufacturing process, which removes most fat and reduces moisture content to approximately 8 to 10%. This combination, minimal fat to go rancid and very low moisture, creates exceptional stability. Research from the Food Emergency Response Network confirms that properly stored TVP maintains nutritional viability for 15, 20 years or longer. The USDA's own studies found that TVP stored in oxygen-free environments showed minimal degradation even after 25 years. From a nutrition standpoint, TVP is impressive, notes Dr. Wilson. It contains all 9 essential amino acids, provides approximately 12 grams of protein per 1/4 cup dry serving, and is fortified with several B vitamins and minerals. For maximum longevity, store TVP in airtight containers with oxygen absorbers. Mylar bags, vacuum-sealed packages, or food-grade buckets with gamma lids all work well. The primary enemies are moisture, which can support mold growth, and oxygen, which eventually causes oxidation of remaining fats. In survival situations, TVP offers several advantages over dried meat products. It's significantly less expensive, about $3.34 per pound, requires no refrigeration, reconstitutes quickly using minimal water, and can be flavored to mimic various meats. It's also lightweight, a critical consideration if relocation becomes necessary. TVP's versatility makes it particularly valuable during extended emergencies, explains Dr. Michael Henderson, emergency preparedness specialist. It can be used in almost any recipe that calls for ground meat, from chili and tacos to pasta sauce and casseroles, helping maintain meal variety when options are limited. The rehydration process is simple. Typically 1 part TVP to 1 part hot water or broth, let sit for 5-10 minutes, then use as you would ground meat. This minimal preparation makes it ideal when cooking facilities are limited or fuel must be conserved. At approximately 160 calories per dry ounce, TVP provides efficient caloric density with minimal storage volume. As Dr. Wilson notes, while not as glamorous as some survival foods, TVP offers exceptional protein nutrition with unmatched storage stability and versatility, exactly what's needed during prolonged emergency situations. 27. Molasses, dark sweetener of extraordinary longevity. Blackstrap molasses, The dark, thick byproduct of sugar refining represents one of the most nutritionally dense sweeteners with remarkable shelf stability. This viscous liquid can remain viable for decades when properly stored. Molasses has exceptional longevity due to its unique composition, explains Dr. Thomas Baker, food preservation specialist. It's approximately 55% sucrose and other sugars, with minimal water activity and natural antimicrobial compounds from the sugar processing. This combination creates an environment hostile to microbial growth. Food science research confirms that unopened molasses maintains quality for 10+ years when stored properly, and remains safe far beyond that. The National Center for Home Food Preservation notes that molasses keeps indefinitely if stored in a tightly closed container at room temperature. What makes blackstrap molasses particularly valuable is its mineral content, notes nutritionist Dr. Rebecca Morgan. It contains significant levels of iron, calcium, magnesium, potassium, and B vitamins, nutrients often lacking in limited emergency diets. Indeed, blackstrap molasses contains more iron per serving than any other sweetener, approximately 20% of daily requirements per tablespoon. During World War II, molasses was used specifically for its iron content when other sources were limited, helping prevent anemia, especially among children and pregnant women. For maximum longevity, store molasses in its original glass container or transfer to mason jars with tight-fitting lids. Keep away from heat and direct sunlight, which can accelerate quality changes. Over very long storage, molasses may develop sugar crystals. These are harmless and can be dissolved by gently warming the jar in a bowl of hot water. In survival situations, molasses serves multiple purposes beyond sweetening. It can be fermented to make alcohol, historically used for both consumption and medicinal purposes. It provides quick-absorbing carbohydrates for energy. It can be used medicinally for digestive issues, a traditional folk remedy. And it enhances the flavor of bland emergency foods like grains and beans, important for preventing food fatigue. The psychological impact of having sweeteners during extended emergencies cannot be overstated, explains Dr. Sandra Klein, disaster psychology researcher. The simple pleasure of sweetened tea or oatmeal provides comfort that contributes significantly to maintaining morale. At approximately $4.46 per quart and providing roughly 960 calories per container, blackstrap molasses offers exceptional nutritional value for its cost and storage footprint. As one food preservation expert puts it, few emergency foods combine the caloric density, mineral content, flavor impact, and multi-decade shelf life of properly stored molasses. 28. Potato flakes, spuds that span generations. Instant mashed potato flakes represent a remarkable feat of food preservation technology. These dehydrated potato products can remain viable for decades while maintaining most of their nutritional value and functionality. Commercial potato flakes are produced through a sophisticated process that removes approximately 95% of the potato's original moisture content, explains Dr. William Chen, food engineer specializing in dehydration technologies. This creates an environment where microorganisms simply cannot multiply. Research from the American Dehydrated Potato Institute shows that commercially packaged potato flakes, when properly stored, maintain quality for up to 15 years and remain safe and functionally usable for 25+ years. The USDA's own long-term storage studies have found properly packaged potato flakes in their emergency supplies remained viable after 3 decades. The key to potato flakes' longevity is their extremely low moisture content combined with antioxidants added during processing, notes Dr. Chen. These antioxidants, typically sodium bisulfite or ascorbic acid, prevent the potatoes from turning brown or developing off flavors due to oxidation. For maximum shelf life, store potato flakes in airtight containers with oxygen absorbers. Mylar bags, vacuum-sealed packages, or food-grade buckets with gamma lids all work well. The primary concerns are moisture, which supports microbial growth, and oxygen, which eventually causes oxidation, affecting flavor and appearance but not safety. In survival situations, potato flakes offer several advantages. They reconstitute in minutes with just hot water, requiring minimal cooking fuel. They provide approximately 150 calories per 1/2 cup prepared serving, along with potassium, vitamin C, and some B vitamins. They're familiar and comforting important psychological factors during emergencies. Potatoes have historically been life-saving crops during famines and food shortages, explains food historian Dr. Susan Patterson. Instant potato flakes were originally developed for the military precisely because they provided the familiar comfort of potatoes with exceptional storage stability. Beyond basic mashed potatoes, the flakes can be used to thicken soups and stews, create potato pancakes, serve as a binder in meatloaf or burgers, stretching limited meat supplies, and even make simple breads when flour is scarce. This versatility makes them valuable for creating varied meals from limited ingredients. At approximately $1.34 per pound, yielding about 10 servings, potato flakes represent excellent value for emergency food supplies. As one preparedness expert notes, they're economical, take minimal storage space, and provide a taste of normalcy when everything else feels unfamiliar. Exactly what you need during extended emergencies. 29. Ramen noodles, the college staple that never dies. Those humble packages of ramen noodles that sustained you through college have a surprising secret. They last far longer than their packaging suggests. These inexpensive bundles of fried, dehydrated noodles can remain edible for years beyond their printed dates. Ramen noodles have exceptional shelf stability due to their flash-frying preservation process, explains Dr. Howard Chang, food scientist specializing in Asian food technologies. This process reduces moisture content to approximately 3 to 5%, creating an environment where spoilage organisms cannot grow. Research from food safety laboratories confirms that commercially packaged ramen, stored properly, remains safe for consumption 8 years beyond its production date, sometimes much longer. In 2018, Momofuku Ando Museum, named for ramen's inventor, displayed a perfectly preserved package from 1971, 47 years old at the time, that remained structurally intact. The primary limiting factor for ramen's shelf life is the gradual oxidation of fats in the fried noodles, notes Dr. Chang. But this process takes many years, and even then, it's a quality issue rather than a safety concern. For maximum longevity, store ramen in cool, dry locations away from temperature fluctuations, direct sunlight, and moisture. The thin plastic packaging offers limited protection, so many preparedness experts recommend repackaging in airtight containers, mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, or vacuum-sealed packages for truly long-term storage. In survival situations, ramen offers several advantages. It requires minimal preparation, just hot water, and 3-5 minutes waiting time. It provides approximately 380-400 calories per package. The familiar flavor and texture can provide psychological comfort during stressful periods. And perhaps most importantly, it's extremely affordable, often under 25 cents per package when purchased in bulk. During the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami in Japan, ramen became a critical emergency food, explains disaster relief coordinator Takeshi Yamamoto. Its lightweight nature, ease of preparation, and comforting familiarity made it ideal for distribution in evacuation centers where cooking facilities were limited. Beyond direct consumption, the noodles can be crushed and used as a crunchy topping for soups or salads, providing texture variety when food options are limited. The seasoning packets can be used separately to flavor other foods like rice or plain vegetables. At approximately 25 cents per package, delivering nearly 400 calories of shelf-stable nutrition, ramen represents perhaps the most economical emergency food option available. As one preparedness expert puts it, it's not nutritionally ideal for everyday consumption, but having a case of ramen in your emergency supplies means you're never more than 5 minutes away from a hot, satisfying meal, no matter what's happening outside. 30. Powdered eggs, breakfast insurance that lasts for years. Powdered eggs represent a marvel of modern food preservation, offering the nutritional benefits of fresh eggs with exceptional shelf stability. These dehydrated egg products can remain viable for years when properly packaged and stored. Commercial egg powder undergoes sophisticated spray drying that reduces moisture content to approximately 1 to 3%, explains Dr. Patricia Reynolds, food technologist specializing in egg products. This creates a hostile environment for microorganisms while preserving the proteins, vitamins, and minerals found in fresh eggs. Research from the American Egg Board confirms that commercially packaged powdered eggs, when properly stored, maintain quality and nutritional value for 5-10 years. Emergency preparedness agencies have found that whole egg powder stored in oxygen-free environments can remain viable for 15+ years, though some degradation of fat-soluble vitamins occurs over time. What makes powdered eggs particularly valuable is their complete protein profile, notes nutritionist Dr. Emily Carson. They contain all 9 essential amino acids in highly bioavailable forms, making them nutritionally superior to many plant-based protein alternatives for long-term storage. For maximum longevity, store powdered eggs in airtight containers with oxygen absorbers. Number 10 cans, Mylar bags, or vacuum-sealed packages offer the best protection. The primary concerns are moisture, which supports microbial growth, and oxygen, which eventually causes oxidation of fatty components, affecting flavor and some nutrients. In survival situations, powdered eggs provide crucial versatility. They can be reconstituted for scrambled eggs or omelets, used in baking, where they perform identically to fresh eggs, incorporated into pasta or breads for protein enrichment, or even mixed into soups and stews as a thickener and nutrient booster. During extended emergencies, having access to familiar breakfast options becomes psychologically important, explains Dr. Robert Williams, disaster psychology specialist. The ability to prepare scrambled eggs or pancakes provides normalcy that helps stabilize emotions, especially for children or older adults who find comfort in routine. Beyond versatility, powdered eggs concentrate significant nutrition in minimal space. 1 cup, approximately 110 g, contains about 33 g of protein, 590 calories, and substantial amounts of choline, selenium, and B vitamins. They require no refrigeration and eliminate concerns about breakage associated with fresh eggs. At approximately $15.20 per pound, equivalent to about 40 eggs, powdered eggs cost more than some storage staples but offer unique nutritional benefits and culinary applications that justify their inclusion. As one emergency preparedness expert notes, in a long-term scenario, the ability to make a birthday cake or Sunday pancakes becomes far more valuable than their monetary cost. It's about preserving humanity when everything else feels inhuman. The clock is ticking. America's food security situation grows more precarious by the day. Those empty shelves you saw during the pandemic? That was just a preview of what's possible. What's coming, if you don't take action now. These 30 foods represent your insurance policy against hunger, against dependency, against the panic that strikes when grocery stores are stripped bare. They've sustained civilizations through wars, depressions, and natural disasters. They'll sustain your family too, if you have the foresight to stock them before everyone else realizes what's happening. Remember, the Department of Homeland Security recommends at least a 2-week supply of food for every American household. But if you've been paying attention to what we've covered today, you know that's barely scratching the surface of what's prudent in today's volatile world. The foods we've discussed don't require special storage facilities. They don't need expensive equipment. Most cost pennies per serving, and they'll still be there, ready to nourish your family, long after that fresh food in your refrigerator has turned to poison. This isn't about fear, it's about freedom. The freedom that comes from self-reliance. The peace of mind that comes from knowing, no matter what happens to the supply chain, your family won't go hungry. So what are you waiting for? Tomorrow's uncertainty is guaranteed. Your family's food security doesn't have to be. Start building your immortal pantry today, before it's too late. Because when the shelves are empty, it's not the food you wanted to buy that feeds your family. It's the food you already have.